Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah, it's
This time we're
gonna be fun.
we're going deep into the world of Eurorack.
Absolutely.
Specifically, how to integrate the Dreadbox NYX Reissue synth.
Yeah.
And we're using the NYX Reissue Owner's Manual as our guide today.
Yeah.
So if you want to follow along. But Eurorack, for those who don't know, is basically like a modular synthesizer system.
Like Sonic Legos.
It is like Sonic Legos.
It is. You get to connect all these different modules, and they all do different things.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool way to kind of build your own custom synthesizer.
And the cool thing about the NYX is that it was sort of designed with this in mind.
Yeah, it's not just a synth you can add to a Eurorack. It's almost like it's designed to be taken out of its case and put into a Eurorack, which is really cool.
So we're going to get into all that.
Yeah.
But first, let's kind of imagine that we're unboxing this NYX.
Okay. That's right.
Just, fresh out of the box, we've got the module itself.
Yep.
It comes in this cool little 42 HP case.
Yeah, and a couple adapters, a MIDI done in 5 to 3.5 millimeter, and the all-important ribbon cable to actually connect it.
The ribbon cable is essential for Eurorack.
And don't forget the power.
Oh, yeah.
You need to make sure you have a good quality USB power adapter that can deliver at least 1 amp.
Right.
That's something that's really important.
That's in the manual.
Yeah.
So definitely pay attention to that.
It's easy to overlook, but it's essential.
Yeah, because you don't want any voltage sag holding back your sonic explorations.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that is kind of unique about the NYX is that it is paraphonic, which...
Now, that might sound a little technical.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
But think of it like this.
Okay.
It's like having 2 singers that can harmonize.
Right.
When you play one note, both oscillators will sing in unison. But when you play 2 notes, they split the melody.
Oh.
One takes the low note, one takes the high note.
I see.
And it just creates a much richer, more dynamic sound than you would get from a single voice synth.
So it's not quite polyphony.
Right.
Where each note gets its own oscillator.
Correct.
But it's like...
It's kind of like a compromise. It's like a happy medium.
Right. It gives you that extra texture and depth. Without having to go full polyphony.
Exactly.
Now, as with any synth, the heart of it really lies in the oscillators.
Absolutely.
And the NYX has 2.
And the manual even says that they take a couple of minutes to warm up.
They do.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like letting your vocals warm up before a performance.
Yeah, you can play it right away.
Right.
But the tuning might be a little bit wobbly until they reach their kind of optimal operating temperature.
And there's even a note in there that the triangle wave on oscillator 2 seems quieter.
Yeah.
But it's not actually lower in volume.
It's not. It's just that the waveform is a little simpler.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have as many harmonics, so it might sound a little quieter.
Interesting little things to be aware of.
Nuances.
Now, a lot of people use their synths with MIDI controllers.
Absolutely.
These days.
Yeah.
So how does the NYX handle MIDI?
It's actually got a really comprehensive MIDI implementation.
Okay.
You can play it from an external keyboard.
Yeah.
You can control the pitch across 7 octaves.
Wow.
There's different modes you can switch between monophonic and paraphonic.
Okay.
You can even do legato playing for smoother transitions between notes.
So it's not just a sound module. It can be played.
You can play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as far as shaping the sound, we've got filters, of course.
Of course. And the NYX has 2.
It does have 2, which is
a lot for a compact synth like this.
Yeah.
And they're both 2-pole filters.
Okay.
Which means that they have a 12 dB per octave slope.
Right. Which is pretty standard.
Which is, it's a nice smooth roll off.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting. You can combine those 2 filters to get a 24 dB per octave roll off.
So you go from...
It's like going from a gentle slope to a steep cliff.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
In terms of how it shapes the sound.
Now, the manual also mentions routing.
Routing, yeah.
And this seems to be where things start to get interesting.
This is where you get to be the architect of the NYX's sound.
Okay.
You have these 3 rotary switches that control how the oscillators, filters, and modulators are all connected.
Okay.
It's like rearranging the pipes in a sonic plumbing system.
So you can actually get very different sounds.
Very different sounds.
Even with playing the same notes.
Absolutely.
Just by how things are routed.
Just by changing the routing. And the manual gives you a few examples to get you started.
Okay.
Example A is kind of the standard setting where both oscillators are sent to filter 1.
All right.
So you get a classic low-pass filter setup.
Yeah.
Good for warm, mellow sounds.
Yeah, sort of your bread and butter.
Yeah, your basic subtractive synthesis.
And then example B.
Example B gets a little more creative.
Okay.
You send each oscillator to its own filter, so you can kind of sculpt them individually.
Right.
Imagine having one oscillator bright and sharp,
Okay.
and the other one dark and brooding.
Wow.
Yeah, you can do some cool stereo effects with that.
Okay.
And then example C is where things get really wild.
Right.
It's called 4 sound sources.
4 sound sources.
And it basically lets you turn the filters into oscillators themselves.
Oh, wow.
So it gets pretty experimental and even percussive. So it's definitely not your average synth setup.
Getting into some more interesting territory.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're all here for the Eurorack integration.
Let's get to the main event.
Yes, so let's free this NYX from its case.
So first thing you got to do is unscrew those 4 corner bolts that are holding the module in.
Okay.
And gently lift it out.
Right.
And then there are 2 more bolts connecting a small PCD to the USB power section.
Gotcha.
Unscrew those and you've got your NYX module ready for Eurorack action.
Okay, so it's free.
It's free.
Now, how do we actually get it into our case?
This is where that ribbon cable comes in.
Okay.
Now, before we do anything, remember safety first.
Yes.
Make absolutely sure that your Eurorack case is powered off.
Absolutely.
Before you connect anything.
Sparks flying.
Yeah, we don't want any accidents.
So power off and then...
Okay, so power's off. Yeah. You're going to connect one end of that ribbon cable to the NYX module.
Okay.
And the other end to the power bus board in your Eurorack case.
Gotcha.
Just make sure it's nice and snug and secure.
So now the NYX is part of our Eurorack family.
It's in there. It's ready to go.
Before we get to the patching, which I know we're all
the fun part
excited about.
Yeah.
Are there any Eurorack integration best practices that we should keep in mind?
So first off, make sure your Eurorack case actually has enough power to handle the NYX.
Yeah.
It does draw a bit of current.
Oh.
And the other thing is placement.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you want the NYX to live?
Where do you want it?
In your case, do you want it front and center?
Right.
Or do you want it kind of tucked away, sending secret sonic signals?
Yeah. That's all about the workflow, right?
It is. Yeah. It's all about creating a flow that works for you.
So we've got our NYX prepped.
We do.
It's ready to go in our Eurorack case.
Yeah.
And now it's time to get to the heart.
The heart of it all.
Of modular synthesis patching.
Patching.
Yeah.
So
that's where
stay tuned for part 2. Absolutely.
We'll explore
all the patching possibilities.
Let's do patching.
Into patching.
Yeah. Welcome back. So we've got our NYX all cozy in the Eurorack case powered up and ready to go.
Yeah, now it's time for the fun part.
It is the fun part. This is where we really start to see the NYX transform from just a standalone synth into this versatile modular instrument.
Yeah, patching is like the language of Eurorack, right?
It is. It's how we tell these modules how to talk to each other.
Right.
How to communicate.
It's the communication.
Create these intricate sonic conversations.
Exactly. And the NYX seems to speak this language pretty well.
It does. It's very fluent.
So the manual breaks it down into 3 main areas for patching.
Right. Outputs, inputs, and the MIDI audio interface.
Okay, so let's start with outputs.
Okay.
What are we sending out from the NYX to other modules?
So think of the outputs as the NYX outgoing messages ready to influence other modules.
Okay.
So we've got VCO2, which is the raw sound of oscillator 2.
Instead of just hearing it through the NUS output, you can route it to another module entirely.
Oh, wow.
So imagine sending that to a delay module for these cascading echoes or maybe a wave folder to just mangle the sound.
So oscillator 2 is not just a sound source. It can be like a modulator too.
Exactly. It's a modulator in disguise.
What other outputs do we have?
We've got M2, which is the signal from modulator 2.
Okay.
Again, you can use this to add rhythmic pulses or wobbly textures to another module.
All right.
And then we've got a dedicated noise output.
Noise.
If you want to add a bit of grit or create whoosh and wind effects, that's your go-to.
All right. I like noise.
Noise is good.
And then we've got Mubbo.
Mane, yes, that outputs the MIDI modulation wheel data as a voltage.
Okay.
So you can use your mod wheel to control parameters on other modules.
So if you want to have a filter suite.
Exactly.
And you hit the mod wheel.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
You patch MUDI into the filter cutoff and you're good to go.
So we're really blurring the lines now between playing the NYX and using it as a modular control center.
Absolutely.
Very cool. And then we've got the familiar gate and CV.
Right. Gate sends out a trigger signal every time you play a note.
Okay.
Perfect for firing off envelopes on other modules or triggering sequences.
Gotcha.
And then CV sends out the pitch information,
Okay.
so you can control the pitch of other oscillators in your system.
So just with the outputs alone,
Yeah.
the NYX can be like the conductor
It can be the brain
of a whole modular orchestra.
behind the operation.
Okay, now let's flip it around.
Okay.
Let's talk about inputs.
Inputs. All right. So think of the inputs as the NYX ears, ready to listen to signals from other modules.
Okay, what can we send into the NYX?
So we've got CV1 and CV2,
Okay,
which let you control the pitch of each oscillator individually.
gotcha.
So if you want a sequencer to play the NYX oscillators,
Right.
you patch it into one of these inputs.
It's like a guest musician coming in and playing a solo
It is exactly.
on the NYX.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, good.
All right,
Okay.
we've got CUT, which lets you control the cutoff frequency of both filters with an external signal.
So if you want to patch in like an LFO,
Exactly. Patch an LFO in there and you get those classic wobbly filter sweeps.
very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then gate.
Gate. Yes, you can use this to trigger the internal modulators with an external signal.
Okay.
So if you want a rhythmic pulse from a drum module to control the NYX modulators, gate is how you do it.
Okay, cool.
And then post lets you control filter 2 independently,
Okay.
which can lead to some really cool stereo effects or unique filter interactions.
So we're really kind of shaping the sound now with these external inputs.
We're having a conversation with the NYX, influencing its sound in all sorts of interesting ways.
That's cool. What else? What other inputs?
Okay, so we've got PW, which controls the pulse width of oscillator 1's square wave,
Okay.
another way to add some sonic texture.
All right.
And then VCA acts like a built-in volume control. Got
That
it.
you can manipulate with an external signal.
So we've covered outputs and inputs.
We have
Now, what about that last section?
the MIDI audio interface.
That's going on over there.
All right, so this is where we connect to the outside world, both in terms of audio and control.
Okay.
So OUT is your main output. That's where the NYX sends its signal to your speakers or headphones.
Right.
But then we've also got N1 and N2, which are audio inputs.
Oh, okay.
So you can process external audio through the NYX's filters.
So we can run other things.
You could run drums through it, vocals, other synths,
Wow.
whoever you want.
That's really cool. So it's like a built-in effects processor.
It is, and it's got that signature NYX sound.
Cool. And then, of course, we've got our MIDI input.
MIDI input for connecting your favorite MIDI controller.
Right. So it's still a very playable instrument.
It is. It hasn't forgotten its roots.
Cool. I like that now with all these patching possibilities.
Yeah,
I'm a little overwhelmed.
it can be a lot.
I'm looking at this patching diagram.
And I'm like, where do I even begin?
Well, luckily, the manual has some specific patching examples to
Luckily.
kind of get you started.
Yeah, because I need that.
They're like little recipes showing you how to combine different ingredients to
yeah.
create specific sonic flavors.
Right, give me an example.
Okay, so there's one that shows how to use the CVOUT to modulate the filter cutoff of another module.
Okay.
And it creates this feedback loop that can lead to self-oscillation and resonance.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it can get pretty crazy.
So we're talking sonic chaos in a good way.
In a good way, controlled chaos.
What other patching gems can we find?
Right. There's another one that uses an external LFO to subtly modulate the pulse width of oscillator 1.
Okay.
It creates this gentle, evolving pulsation that just adds this really nice movement and depth to the sound.
Okay. So more subtle.
More subtle, yeah.
Not quite as chaotic,
Yeah, not quite as in your face.
but still interesting.
So still very interesting.
What else?
There's one that uses the VCO2 output to create a cross-modulation effect.
Okay.
So the second oscillator is actually modulating the pitch of both oscillators.
Wow.
It's a great way to thicken up the sound or create chorus-like effects.
So these examples are great,
Mm-hmm.
but honestly, my head is still spinning a little bit.
I understand it can be a lot to take in.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out with patching the NYX?
My advice is don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
That's the beauty of modular synthesis. There are no right or wrong answers.
Right.
Just start with a simple patch.
Okay.
Maybe just connect one output to one input on another module and see what happens.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, and then add another connection and another, and just let your ears guide you.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised at what you discover.
It's like learning a language. You start with a few basic phrases,
Exactly.
and then you build from there.
You build your vocabulary.
Yeah. And then you can have a whole conversation.
And the NYX is a great tool for learning that language.
Okay, cool.
Uh-huh.
So we've explored the patching potential of the NYX.
We have.
But I think we need to zoom out a little bit
Okay.
and talk about the bigger picture of what integrating the NYX into Eurorack really unlocks.
Right, because patching is just the beginning.
That's just the beginning.
In the next part, we'll explore the sonic possibilities that emerge when you combine the NYX with other modules and how this integration can really transform your creative workflow.
All right. Sounds good.
Can't wait. Stay tuned for the grand finale.
The grand finale of our NYX Eurorack journey. All right, so we're back for the final part of our NYX Eurorack adventure.
The grand finale.
We've gone through all the features. We've taken it out of the case. We've patched it up.
We've gotten our hands dirty.
He's gotten our hands dirty.
Yeah.
So now I think it's time to really zoom out
Yeah.
and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, big picture.
What does it actually mean
Yeah.
to integrate this thing?
What does it unlock?
What does it unlock?
What sonic horizons does it open up?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like going from a single instrument performance to a full-blown symphony orchestra.
Okay, I like that.
You know, the NYX is great on its own.
Right.
When you start connecting it to other modules,
Yeah.
it becomes a whole different beast.
So we're not just limited to the sounds
Right.
within the NYX.
You can bring in all these external forces to
Yeah.
shape and mold the sound.
So what are some examples of that?
Well, imagine using a complex sequencer
Okay.
to control the pitch of the NYX oscillators.
Okay.
You could create these intricate evolving melodies
Yeah.
that would be impossible to play by hand.
Right.
Or how about patching in a random voltage generator
Okay.
to modulate the filter cutoff?
Right.
You get these unpredictable, almost living textures.
It's getting weird.
It can get really weird.
What about using it for like rhythmic stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Can we do that?
Absolutely. You could use a clock divider
Okay.
to create rhythmic patterns
Right.
that trigger the NYX envelopes.
So it's like a drum module almost.
It can be. Yeah, you can turn it into a percussive powerhouse.
Cool. And of course, we've got effects.
Oh, yeah, don't forget the effects.
Send it through a reverb.
Reverb, delay, chorus, flanger.
It's distortion.
Distortion, anything you can think of.
Wow. So the possibilities really are pretty much endless.
Pretty much endless.
It's a little overwhelming.
It is, but it's a good kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's that open-endedness
Right.
that really makes Eurorack so exciting.
You're not boxed in.
You're not boxed in by
Like,
anything.
You can do whatever you want.
So the NYX is kind of like our guide.
It's a good starting point.
Yeah?
It gives you a solid foundation,
Mm-hmm.
but then it encourages you to go out and explore.
Connect with other modules.
Yeah, see what happens.
It's saying, here are the building blocks.
Yeah,
Now go make something.
it makes some magic.
And that's the beauty of modular, right?
It is. It's all about experimentation.
Yeah.
Happy accidents.
Yeah. You stumble upon something.
Unexpected discoveries.
And like, oh, wow.
That's the best part.
That's cool. I didn't even know I could do that.
Exactly. So it's a journey of discovery.
It is a constant journey of discovery.
Yeah. What excites you the most
Oh, that's a good question.
about bringing the NYX into Eurorack?
What excites me the most?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's the potential for sound design.
Okay.
You know, like for film scoring or video games,
Right.
the NYX can create such a wide range of sounds.
Okay. Yeah.
From really subtle and atmospheric to
Yeah.
really aggressive and in your
It
face.
can get pretty gnarly.
It can get really gnarly. Yeah.
So it's a good tool.
It's a great tool for creating sonic worlds.
Yeah, I think for me,
Yeah.
I'm really excited about the generative possibilities.
Okay.
I like the idea of setting up a patch
Yeah.
where the NYX is kind of,
Self-generating.
constantly evolving,
Right.
surprising me with new things.
It's a really cool idea.
It's almost like it's alive.
It's like it has a mind of its own.
Yeah. So it's really cool that we can take this one module
One little
and
module.
have such different
And have completely different
ideas about what we're going to do with.
visions for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really speaks to the power of both the NYX and Eurorack as a format.
Yeah, it really does.
It's a testament to modular synthesis
Yeah.
and how it can adapt and evolve.
It's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
yeah.
what is the one key takeaway
The one key takeaway.
that you would like to leave the listener with?
Don't be intimidated.
Okay.
Don't be intimidated by Eurorack.
It can seem scary.
It can seem scary, but at its heart, it's all about having fun.
Yes.
It's about exploring sound
Yeah.
and just being creative.
Embrace the experimentation.
Embrace the experimentation, the happy accidents,
The happy accidents.
the unexpected discoveries.
That's where the good stuff happens.
That's where the magic is.
Yeah, well said, well said.
And who knows, maybe the NYX will be your gateway into this wonderful world of modular synthesis.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for joining us on this Eurorack journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep patching, keep exploring,
And keep creating.
keep creating a bit.